Hi there, I'm Dr. Brad Wolf from Innovation Health here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in this video today, I want to talk to you about auto accident care, meaning what should you do if you're involved in an auto accident? What are the steps you need to take? What are the things that you need to do? And why do you need to do those things? So, if you're involved in an auto accident, which is certainly an unfortunate incident, I've been in a couple of them in my life, and neither one of them, actually one was my fault when I was in college, but especially if it's not your fault, sometimes, if you get a little bit disoriented or whatnot after the accident, you may forget to do certain things. So the first thing is that you want to gather all information. You want to take pictures of the accident. You want to get the other person's information. You want to get their insurance information, get their telephone number, get any information that you possibly can. In some states, they're going to make you wait for a police officer to show up in the scene. But regardless of what the police officer does, you want to be able to ensure that you document everything that's going on, because invariably, if the officer doesn't put it on the form, trying to get it changed later becomes much more difficult. So again, doesn't really matter day or night, whatever you have hopefully you have your phone on you. You can take pictures. You can even audio record the person's name and their phone number if they'll let you do that, or you can write it down. But really the most important thing is making sure that regardless of whether you think you're injured or not, that you gather that information, not only for your insurance company, but also for the other person's insurance company. In some cases, what happens is that if the car hits you and they speed off, it's going to be really all on your insurance. And so on your insurance policy, you should really think about having what's called MedPay or personal injury protection, or PIP, which will help you in the case of A, if it's your fault, or B, if somebody hits you and they run off and their responsibility is back on you. You don't want severe injuries from an accident to put you in a financial hardship that makes it more difficult for you to live your life and pay for the things that you need to pay for. And invariably in an auto accident, it's very common for the cost of injuries associated with accidents to begin to escalate over time, especially if it's a severe injury. And I've seen really, really minor injuries. I've seen really major injuries. Sometimes you don't know. That's why they call them accidents and not intentionals. But there's a couple of pieces of information I want you to understand here. So in the state of North Carolina, where I am now, and every state is a little bit different, there are what are called fault and no fault states. Okay, so when they say that it's a fault state, it means that there's somebody that's responsible and the other person is not responsible. In a no fault state, it means that everybody takes care of all their own stuff. Okay, like you take care of your injuries, they take care of their injuries. In North Carolina, it's a fault state, which means that when there's blame, there has to be 100% blame, because there's something called contributory negligence. I know some of these are big words, but contributory negligence means that if you are in an accident and you participated even 1%, then you're responsible. So you got to know the laws of your state, know what it is that you're doing. So the next thought is this: if you get in an accident, it's very important to make sure that you get your spine and your body evaluated. You may not feel the problem immediately, but I've seen people that don't feel anything, and on day 5, day 6, day 7, day 10, it feels like they got hit by a Mack truck. That happens sometimes. If you know that you have pain right off the bat, then certainly getting evaluated. 80% of people go to chiropractors for auto accident cases. Certainly may go to a physical therapist or whatnot. But if you go to your general medical practitioner, the likelihood is they're going to probably just put you on muscle relaxers and pain meds, as opposed to really fixing the problem. One of the things that's really helpful right off the bat is that ice is a natural anti-inflammatory. And so we want to put ice on the painful areas literally right away. Right away, you want to start putting ice on the painful areas. Now, accidents are rated in different intensities. So I've got a couple of things here. The first one is this book here, which is the Guide to Evaluation and Permanent Impairment. It's the AMA Guideline 5th edition, which as far as I know, they're still following 5th edition. And it gives ideas of if you're injured this much, this is the level of injury or impairment that happens. So I want to explain two terms to you. The first is disability. The second is impairment. When you're going through your accident, you have certain level of disability and inability to do certain things. And so if you, say, are having difficulty walking or exercising or sleeping or showering, putting on your makeup, anything that you do that is difficult for you, you want that all needs to be documented in the notes. So when you go to see your doctor or whatever the case is, you want to make sure that they document the things in the ways that you're being affected. That's disability. Impairment means that you've done all your treatment, you're signing out, but before the accident you were a 0, meaning you had a 0 pain level. Out of 0 to 10, you had a 0 pain level. Well, if at the end of your accident you're a 0 and everything checks out, you can still have impairment even if you're at a 0 pain level. But let's say you only get to a 3 out of 10. So you were a 0, now you're a 3 out of 10. There has to be some level of what's called an impairment rating. An impairment rating is what this book is for. Okay, this book here is the Guide to Evaluation and Permanent Impairment put out by the American Medical Association. But there's also something called the Croft Guidelines. And again, this is just on a piece of paper here, but it talks about the severity of the problem, what happens to the body, and how many visits approximately it's going to take for a person to recover. Now, I started saying to you that in the state of North Carolina, there's actually a 3-year statute, which means you have up to 3 years to treat. But it needs to be fairly contiguous, fairly like continuous throughout time. If there are huge gaps in time, they're going to say, well, maybe you didn't take the problem so seriously. But the Croft Guidelines is a good gauge for that. And so here's a typical grade 3 moderate injury to the body, limitation of motion, some ligamentous injury, and neurological findings may be present. This is a moderate grade 3. It goes all the way up to 5. 5 is typically surgical. So I see 2s, 1s, 2s, 3s. I've seen some 4s. It just really depends. Now, on a grade 3, it says that it could take up to 56 weeks and 76 visits. So don't feel like you're going to get out of this and you're going to be able to, go, especially if you're severely injured. It's going to take time. And don't let that dissuade you from actually getting the treatment that you need, because once you sign on the dotted line and you sign off from this, you release the liability of the insurance company. You don't want to do that until you're ready. Some people are going to need attorneys, other people don't need attorneys. And so we oftentimes advise people in our office specifically whether or not you should get the help of an attorney or not. Sometimes if the problem is really basic, and it's just going to take a few visits to resolve, it doesn't really make sense to hire an attorney. Okay? So again, this isn't any slight on attorneys, and I would tell you that not all attorneys are the same. They don't have the same level of skill. And so finding a good attorney, getting a good recommendation, they have to be able to defend if there is impairment. Again, if there is impairment, meaning you've completed your treatment and you're not completely resolved with the symptoms and it's not getting any better and it's not getting any worse, there's going to be impairment there. It has to be rated. It also has to be addressed in your case. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is whether you use an attorney or you do it yourself, you're going to be negotiating with the insurance company, the other person's insurance company. Let's say the other person's at fault. You're negotiating for the other insurance company for a settlement claim. But it's going to come down to a dollar amount. And if your body is injured, it's not going to give you your life back. So the number one thing you need to do is make sure that you're treating your body well so that you can enjoy your life and you can, to be as healthy as possible, live as well as you possibly can. So there's a lot of little details in here, and I don't want to put everything in here, but I'm trying to jam as much of it in as I can because there's a lot here. But one of the things that can happen if you don't treat this problem effectively or successfully, we've talked about this before, that this is like the degenerative process of the spine. One of the things that happens with accidents is it can speed up the deterioration of the body, and I don't want that to happen to you. Okay, so making sure that, number one, you get the information, the accident, you go and seek help. In some cases, if you need to go to the hospital, you go to the hospital, but we want to get some care that is going to specifically work to resolve and improve your body and get you past this accident as quickly as possible. I'm Dr. Brad Wolf, talking about auto accidents. Thanks so much for watching.